All right. Hey, greetings, everyone. I am so proud to be able to feature yet another strong poet on the channel. And this one is on an absolutely white hot tear right now. So happy to have Lilith Morgan Elliott. She is a trans feminine poet based out of the Atlanta area. She holds an MIT in English education and is entering her 5th year of teaching English language arts in a public high school environment. On Reddit, you can find her under the handle RedTheTimid, not so timid anymore, is what I would
I
say.
made that username. Gosh, I think I just celebrated 9 years on Reddit, so I would have been 19. A lot more
Oh
timid at the
gosh.
time,
Oh yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Lilith, it's thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, of course, I'm happy to be here. I love the show, love what you're doing with the channel and with the workshops, and I'm happy to be part of it.
Oh, it's been just really incredible to watch your meteoric rise. If memory serves, you've been sending me some pieces here and there for, I don't know, 6 months, probably, maybe a little longer.
Um, Maybe a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
maybe a little longer. Maybe
I
you
had
dip
some
in there.
periods
Wait,
where I wasn't writing, and there were a few pieces that you picked up out of new that I didn't send you.
okay. So
And
you
which
were there.
probably should never have been posted.
So you were there from the beginning, basically. Yeah. So
Yes.
that's incredible. So you're kind of, your handle had already been somewhere in my consciousness. And then just a few months ago, just like a month, maybe a month ago, you sent me this piece. You sent me churchgoers, and you just
You found that one.
I found that.
Yeah, I didn't send
Oh,
you that one.
okay. Well, okay. So organic discovery is even better. But yeah, um, I guess a good poetry can't hide forever on Reddit. I always feel like people are always DMing me stuff. But maybe some of the most timid don't.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a break that I have, or sort of a boundary that I have that I don't like to cross. There is a little bit still of timidity with my project, which I don't think my poetry bears that out. But as the author behind the poetry, it's definitely still there. And that's kind of where I'm working. As I move toward publication, I'm hoping a lot of that will start to fade, and I'll gain that sort of confidence to put myself out there a little bit more and stand behind my work a little bit more as well.
Definitely. So I can tell you, no matter where you're at in that process, whether you're, just kind of cutting your teeth on the submission process, whether you've been around doing it for a while like I have, or whether you're very accomplished, very successful poet. I always hear like, well, you got to get thick skin about rejection, thick skin. It's such bullshit, because it's
Yeah.
like, you know what? If Louise Glick sends out a poem and someone turns it down, she's not going to be like, oh, that's fine. That's no big deal. I'm Louise Glick. She's going to be like, what the fuck? She's Louise Glick. She's not accustomed to rejection anymore. I mean, maybe she feels like she went through so much of it coming up, but I'm saying, like, I don't care who you are. If you're passionate about your work and you care deeply and you want to stand behind it, it always hurts. And that's
Yeah.
kind of just part of the process that I feel like people need to understand. Like, if it weren't about our hearts and our passion, right? Everybody
Yeah.
would be, it would be so much easier. You could just automate it and not just not care, right? But it's always about that, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure there are people who can handle that rejection with a lot of grace, but to me, it speaks to what you're investing in the poetry. If there's that fear of letting it go and having other people's eyes on it, but the paradox is, of course, the poetry doesn't work until somebody reads it.
Right.
At least from my perspective, it really exists in that shared space between the reader and the poet. So you got to put it out there for it to live in the way that you want it to live.
I know it's going to sound crazy, but you know, some of the most difficult experiences for me haven't been the rejections, but have been some of the acceptances where I feel like I get a magazine, or, and this is going to sound weird, you get a journal or you see your poem in a website and you're like, I don't like it. I don't like either. I don't like my poem. I think I could have done better, or I don't like where it's, how it's being presented, or I don't like the company that's keeping. I shouldn't have submitted it there. And I feel like a lot of poets, when they're trying to get out there, they send their stuff out to a lot of places without wondering, well, what will happen if it goes to print? You know, is that really what I want? Do I want it in print at this journal? And it's easy for me to say, since I've had poems published here and there, but I do want you to think, especially now when you're starting to write some strong stuff, think about, am I going to be satisfied and fulfilled by this experience? And if not, you know, maybe.
Well, that's a big piece of why I'm not submitting right now. It doesn't sound crazy to me at all, because this portfolio that I've sent you, most of the pieces in it I'm not super happy with for one reason or another, and I think
we can dig in. It's,
me being
I'm getting also
more than anything else.
A little bit of perfectionist vibe. I'll let the channel in on this secret from Lilith, which is at past 9 a.m., past 9 p.m., past my bedtime. I was, you know, probably watching Netflix or something. And I get this email from you that you've revised your portfolio. And I'm like, oh, one of those. Oh, gosh, perfectionist. Okay, let's get into it, though.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's so much different stuff we could talk about, and there's so much good stuff going on. You know, we could make several episodes, and we should. But let's dig into some poems. I wanted to look at a pair of poems. Well,
Okay.
And which poems, if you were to think that I would find that to be the most strong, that should be number 1 and 2 on your list. I know you open with Milltown here.
Tough.
But what would you think I'm going to open with?
Of the ones that I sent you, I feel like it would be Milltown.
Okay.
It would either be Milltown or probably Double Dutch, which is
I
the
like
prose
Double
piece
Dutch
that I included. Those would be, if I'm thinking kind of more from your perspective and from what I've seen on the channel, that's where I think it would go.
Here's where I go.
Is it you go to this one?
Oh, yeah.
The one I thought you would hate.
Well, why would I hate something this beautiful, huh? What's to hate? What don't you like about this? Why don't you give
folks...
I
don't dislike it. I thought we can dig into it. We can talk about where it is.
Why don't you give folks the read, please?
For All My Heartbreaks Are Lies. This is actually a fairly recent piece. Hasn't gone through as much of a revision process as some of the others in here. All my heartbreaks are lies. All my kisses stamp invisible X's down sheets of paper, transferring one onto the other as I fold the covers. I leave the door open when I shower and imagine you writing verses in the fog. My response to you is pinned between sheets, running wet, smeared on my thumb, then my cheek, then my lip. If you ever heard how I speak your name when the ink runs, you'd thank me not to spill it on your flesh. Thank me for swallowing it all inside, lying enough for the both of us so we never have to clean the stains.
It does everything that I like in a poem. Bold proposal, huge bold proposal right from the title. Immediately situating the reader with this visceral, sensual imagery. All you see that how much work you're getting out of all my kisses there. This inclusiveness that brings the reader in. It's practically grabbing them with that. And the stamp that's bold, that's assertive. And then this big transition and contrast to invisible X's down sheets of paper. That sheets, then you play with that a little bit. with the folding and all that type of stuff. There's another thing I like about this poem that's, I don't think, incidental, which is it's what, 14 lines?
That is incidental. I've played with the sonnet
Ah,
before.
you
I've
don't
done
get,
that more
no,
intentionally in the
no,
past, but
no,
maybe it's subliminal. Maybe it's
no. It's a,
subconscious.
repeat after me, a very deliberate decision by a veteran, by a veteran pro move. This just reeks of Edna St. Vincent Millay. Just absolutely screams Edna St. Vincent Millay to me.
My Malay collection is just up there. You can't see it; it's a little bit out of frame. But I've been dipping quite a lot into her work. So,
and if you follow the channel, you know Edna St. Vincent Millay is the goat.
yes, I think I may have been introduced to her from you covering one of her sonnets on the channel. So, thank you for that.
I love Edna St. Vincent Millay, and I love how this, to me, has some of this so similar cadences updated for a free verse era. Now, you might think, the perfectionist that you are, well, it's not quite finished, and there's some things that need attention, but those types of things are easier to do, right? So, for example, we could look here and we could say, we have the sheets, we have the covers. This is beautiful. Writing verses in the fog. It's just gorgeous. Now, look at this repeat word here. How we have this is something which I think, again, I've discussed on the channel, where Yeats could repeat words as he wanted to, but he would often use them as different parts of speech. So when we have this repeat word, what ends up happening is this, either the first usage of it, which is important here, is lessened, is weakened a little bit, or the second one doesn't have the impact that we would want. The way you read it, especially running wet, smeared on my thumb, was just gorgeous. And I think this caesura here, this big comma here, that's why it's coming across. And we're kind of leading up to the part of the sonnet where you have the volta. You have this full stop here, and we can see this full stop. You're like, oh, I didn't think of it as a sonnet. It's totally is, because 4/4, it's 8, full stop, volta. Slam dunk. Slam dunk. It's not just that the full stop is just like, oh, well, you decided to put a period in there because it felt fun. Look at how you open the sestet with another rhetorical gambit. Yeah.
That is the lesson, I think, for people who are getting into poetry. I think people don't understand why the sonnet is so important, and I think it comes down to that volta and the ability to establish in a relatively short space a situation, and then the ability to turn and reflect on it, and then just kind of drop the mic and step out of frame and let it ride. Being able to do that and learning how to do that in 14 lines, you can take it so many places. So I didn't approach this necessarily from the place of let's write a sonnet, but I did approach the end of the poem as, how do I wrap it up? And so that's where the volta comes in, and that internalized kind of pattern of pivoting. That's, if it works, that's what makes it work, I think.
Preach. But if you ever say this wasn't done deliberately again, I'm going to get really mad, and
all right.
we're going to, I don't know what we're going to, I mean, this is so, from a perspective, here's why you want to lead your portfolio with this, right? This poem is going to cue experienced editors that Lilith Morgan Elliott does not fuck around. And that is very, very important thing for you to do when you open this. You want to hit them hard, and you want to show them that you understand the complexities and intricacies of the tradition. That's my belief. Now, you could try to send this to places which, idiots who've read less than who don't know any of this stuff. But I would say you're at the point in your craft where you should have something to prove. You should want this. And this poem wants to show the world how far you've come and what you're capable of as a craftsperson. So yeah, right on. Now, what am I going to say is going to be poem number 2?
I kind of already gave you my my 1 and 2.
Well, we
Neither
got to
of
have
them are strong propositions.
churchgoers. Churchgoers has to be in this packet. So you got to, I don't know why it's not in this portfolio. Maybe you felt like, well, I already discussed on the channel, but churchgoers has to be in.
We'll put churchgoers back in.
Good.
Part of it was that it has been covered extensively, of course. I did change it. It is updated from when you covered it.
So the problem
it's a lot. It's more mature.
Is it?
Go ahead.
People heard what have I been called? P-head? They heard this P-head read it, which is garbage. They should hear you read it. All right, let's go on. I would say you could open with Heartbreaks, you could open with Churchgoers. Those are absolutely required. After that, where am I going to go? Corpus Christi. Now, let's hear.
Yeah. Okay, Corpus Christi. As dusk tongues the sinews of the shore, our kayak breaches the bay with a sigh. Along the inlet, water mounts the stones to wrap around tufts of beach grass. My hands trail the waves, fingers steepled to supplicate ladyfish who guide us to spawning waters. When I lift you from the boat, droplets pool on my fingers like rosary beads. We lay on the bank, warm to warm, bare in bay currents that coax me open as I take your body into mine. Entwined in shallows, buoyed in a musk of brine, we birth a new covenant. And when we rise, we swallow air replete with the ghost sublime. For our glory is in the wet of another's body, and our power is in the cresting of another's hips, and our kingdom spans from water to water, from body to body, forever.
It's just gorgeous. It's just, you're pushing line length towards this kind of more the kind of romantic iambic pentameter length with the number of beats as dust tongues the sinews of the. It's not iambic pentameter, but the number of beats here tends to be more towards 5. Our kayak breaches the bay with a sigh. So we're getting a number of beats that is more naturally has more room for you to kind of luxuriate and posture a little bit, but it's a poem about these types of postures and positions, about wanting to be seen and touched, and this awareness of that's all over this poem, that wants the reader to have that engagement as well, and to give the reader a very unhurried experience of navigating bodies, which is very pleasurable for the reader.
I think the worry I have with this one, and probably the reason I wouldn't have foregrounded it in the portfolio, is it's tough with a poem like this to ensure that the reader is in on the joke. Not that it's comic, but I think there's an equal risk of alienating the reader when you kind of have some of these lapses in language and push it kind of to that boundary of where it almost feels like it's doing too much. But because the poem is about that experience, like you said, that was what made me hesitant about this particular piece, is bringing it right up to that edge without jumping the shark.
So Lilith, everybody and their brother on Reddit, everybody wants to write something about their frustration with received traditional Catholic wisdom or whatever. Like everybody wants to write that poem. And you see a billion of them, beach, just garbage, detritus, washing up on the shores of Reddit all the time. This is a clinic. This shows people how to do it. Because where in this poem are you like mad about it? Where in this poem are you yelling and screaming about it? The poem is beautiful, and poetry gives an opportunity for us to rebuttal, to retort with beauty, right?
Yeah.
That's the best possible way you can do it. And
I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's a huge part of my project is taking that received language, which for someone like me in a lot of ways is restraining, and rather than rejecting it, which I think is the kind of default response that a lot of people have, and it's a valid response, but rather than reject it, take the language and twist it and bend it to your own purposes. And I think there's almost more power in that movement. So that's really where a lot of this comes from. When I'm writing a poem like this, is it's about reclamation, and it's about taking a little bit of that power back. And I think you can only really do something like that with poetry.
I can't put it any better. I will perhaps add that when I see stuff like this, I think if you're so many people, they are ruled by language. And poets, our goal is not to be ruled by language, to shape, as you said, twist. I would say shape or form. Maybe you said bend. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this shaping that the poem does says, I understand how language has been used for a long period of time. These received words and ideas, that ideas are embedded inside of words, right? And other people, the words come out of their mouth, but they don't understand the ideas that go along with them. And by what you do, by how you've reshaped language, you're allowing us to re-experience these sacraments in a way that's fresh. That's a service. That's what poetry should do. Now, I could quibble and we could say, well, there's a lot of adjectival, blah, 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 blah. But like when you have talent, right, you can fix that stuff later. You should prioritize trying to get your strongest stuff in circulation soon. So then you can come back on the channel with a magnum of champagne and we can toast you, which is what's going to be happening if you pursue this. And you're going to be like, yeah, you're so helpful, Max. And that'll be awesome, because I'll be like, yeah, I told you. And it'll be cool. People will love it. All right. So, yeah. Some of these lines are just, pretty much, Michelangelo touch level of great. Droplets pull my fingers like rosary beads, I would say would be, yeah. You do some kind of, can, I don't remember the technical word where you shove two words together, like bay currents. I think that's kenning, but I'm not sure.
Something like that.
There were a few other places in this poem where he did that. You might, and I think I think it's fine. I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at this like, what am I going to change? Like, where am I going to push? I mean, it is romantic, like big R romantic, but that's appropriate. That's the thing. That's why I get so mad at people all the time on Reddit when they're doing this stuff. It's like, but you don't have the topic for it. You haven't set this up. You don't have the right approach. Look at your title, Corpus Christi. Okay. You're cueing the reader that this is going to be a poem of this type of ambition. So you're justified in deploying it, language in this way. And most people aren't, because most people don't have anything to say that's interesting. All right. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
All right. Let's look at the prose poem. So I think there are going to be people who love this poem. Dog, I don't know. I'm too old, I think, for the Stooges. So it's just like, and I like the poem. Yeah.
Too old, the Stooges, that's 70s.
No, it is. All right.
Yeah, the Stooges.
All right. So, I'm sure my wife will be like, "What? You don't know the Stooges?" So yeah, just swing and a miss here. Okay, that's on me.
You got to be in a certain have a certain musical interest to appreciate it. I'll say that it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, if we went Dead Kennedys, I'll be ready to go. Oh, so Devin Brock and I were,
I think, from the Dead Kennedys forward.
What's that?
I think there's a lineage from the Stooges forward to Dead Kennedys.
Okay.
I think they're in the same stream. So.
Okay, so I'll connect those dots offline, and I'll get back to you. This poem, I think, you're gonna know. It's this, to me, I would say if you're gonna go for line like this, you're gonna cause a certain amount of conniption for editors who are like, well, how am I going to format this in my magazine, which would have these tight margins? So if you just gave them those like kind of William Carlos Williams, kind of cascading lines or something like that, tempt them with some type of cascading lineation. You could try something like that. When I try that with my poems, it never works. So I stay completely left justified. So I don't know. You could consider something like that.
There's a reason this is at the end of the portfolio, sure, and not the front.
So look at my video. I have a video about this long poem with long lines that I actually ended up putting into prose. It's called where I just revise this poem in front of the camera. It's Arboretum. And I just take this big brick of text and I start hammering it down into these very, very, very attenuated lines. Now, you don't need to know how to do that right now. But long term, you're going to want to be able to do that because you're going to accrete material at a rate faster than you can get those poems published. And you're going to go back to old material and you're going to be mad at it. And you're going to be like, what is it doing for me now? And if you can learn how to revise poems like this with these very long phrases into something extremely attenuated, it'll be another arrow in your quiver. But you don't need that yet. You want that, but you're doing great. You're doing great. All right. Let's wrap it up with Double Dutch. So please give us a read.
Sure. Double Dutch. Watching for cars in muggy Georgia musk, mosquito bites after school, jump rope splitting asphalt, gravel skittering down slack-jawed storm drains to rest beside marbles and quarters, waiting my turn, sweat slick between my shoulder blades, sitting sock-footed beside my roller blades as a thin rope of horizon scatters long shadows under my ankles, the tap, tap, tap of timekeeping, the laughter, the rhyme, the drains, the dusk, a slice of summer cantaloupe with red oak rind, the last time I was mine, just before the rains.
So I'm going to be a little mean.
Do it.
And say we're all the victim of our strengths. look at what you're able to do with this. Starting here, the laughter, the rhyme, the drains, the dusk, a slice of summer cantaloupe with red oak rind. Absolutely gorgeous. Any poet out there would wish they had written this. Just absolutely phenomenal. And that earns you this ending. The last time I was mine. Devastating. Just before the rains. Do you want the just before the rains? Maybe. It's great. Maybe you look at it, you know, you look at it again without that. Could go either way. No problem. This strength of yours is going to allow you in many cases to get this poem published, despite the fact that I think the opening is weak. Relative. The problem is you make it sound weak because it ends so lyrically beautifully strong. Look at this muggy and musk. It's dragging on the ear a little bit. Watching is passive, watching for cars. And I know this is a poem about these experiences, but there's nothing sensual the way that you drop in to some of these other poems in the portfolio where you're immediately on people's skin, right? We don't have that here. But if you could get this mosquito in there, and if you could get them not after, if you get them, the mosquitoes biting, if you could get this more into a English loves its verbs, right? And you're often very good with them. But if we could get this more about this biting, because this that puts us on the skin, on the flesh. It gets us to itch, right? We want the reader to itch, to reach, to scratch something. So it's that flinch that we want to cause. This doesn't make me flinch yet. Watching for cars in muggy Georgia musk, mosquito bites after school. It's a litany. It's a list of facts, of things, but it's not action. It's not movement. Now the splitting asphalt, now you're starting to get somewhere, right?
Yeah. No, I can absolutely see that. And I think there is a preoccupation here with this poem to make it inert in a certain way. It's difficult, but I think you're absolutely right. That can be achieved with it while still having that cleaner entry point, that more immediate and that more tactile entry point doesn't necessarily have to change what the poem is. So I'll definitely take a look at the beginning and the opening.
One amazing strategy to passivate the speaker is give the verbs to everything else but the speaker. The mosquitoes can do things. The cars can do things. The jump rope can do things. And deny that agency from the speaker initially, right? If that's the effect you're going for, but still be verb driven, still be action driven. That's this lesson. James Wright has his poem laying on a hammock in wherever he is. Now I have to Google the poem and that'll be a distraction. But James Wright has one of the most devastating. His ending is like your ending. The last time I was mine. His is I have wasted my life. That's the ending of his poem. And it's crushing because it's just this dude lying in a hammock and he's just watching nature. But all of the actions, all the verbs of all the things around him re-emphasize how he's doing nothing. He's just a poet. He doesn't do shit. And by the end, that force of it it's just inescapable. it's like 1,000 fucking tons. It's a great poem, and it's a lot like what you're doing.
Yeah, I'll absolutely look that up.
I want to talk very briefly about the Biz BS, and I promise I'll give you some recommendations about some places where you can send out, and we'll do that. We'll just give you an audible on that and see where you take it. I want to put the usual qualifications down here. I can email you this stuff. So, but the usual qualifications is, there's this kind of survivorship bias. There's this, the planes that come back with bullet holes in them, and made it and landed again. People are like, well, we should put the armor wherever the bullet holes came. We should armor up those wings. It's like, well, the ones that came back,
Yeah, I'm with you. That's a warm-up question I use when we start talking about logical fallacies in my English classes. And I'll show them the picture of the plane. That's a complete tangent. I just thought that was fun.
But completely true of the submission process.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about places that I've had engagement with where it's either I've had a productive conversations or feedback with editors where I felt the process was rewarding acceptance or rejection, or I felt like I was accepted and it was a positive experience. It wasn't just like mercenary, like we go print your poem, we're done. Like, you know what I'm saying? Something where I felt
Yeah.
it was bigger than just a transaction. And this is in no particular order. And again, just because I've had some positive experiences communicating with these journals, doesn't necessarily predict that much. And I hope, if more than anything else, by sharing with you some names, you go look up some of these journals and you think, that's exciting. That's interesting. I like what they publish, or I don't like what they publish. And I think that's a more important for you to develop this sensitivity. That's what's exciting to me. In the same way that you've developed this incredible sensitivity in a poem like Corpus Christi, I want you to send out to places where you feel like they're going to share that excitement with you. I think you deserve that. So there's some places, places where I feel like are great because, they are high quality. So I'm not going to say anything that isn't high quality, but they accept a little bit more, so there's a place in California, Blue Unicorn, really nice working with them. Boston area has Ibbotson Street. They were slow, but great. I know you're in Atlanta. The Atlanta Review, you absolutely gotta send stuff to Atlanta Review. They're nice. They've been really kind to me, and I've heard that from other poets as well, that they take care of people. So that's fantastic. I really liked working with Illuminations out of South Carolina. That's really cool because they're published not only in the US, but they have a South Africa beachhead. So you get your poems out in South Africa as well, which was super, super fun.
That's awesome.
Plain Songs, quality people over there. Let's see, on a little bit higher end, moving up the tier a little bit. I have had some nice back and forth with the Gettysburg Review. And I think what they publish is very high quality. Same thing goes for Massachusetts Review. Colorado Review, maybe they don't give me so much feedback, but they're timely and professional, and maybe they publish a most style I think would be a little bit different from what we write, but I would give them a go. Bennington Review is near me. They've always been timely and professional. I just sent some stuff to the Rumpus, I just heard back from them. They were really, really great in letting me down and giving me some feedback. And they're basically like, we think you're good, you're just not the right fit for us. And you made it all the way to the finalist process. So it's possible maybe you're a better fit for the Rumpus, let's see. Just a few others. Online only, Thrush. They turn things around really quickly. So if you want a quick response, that's great. Another Boston heavyweight would be Agni. You know, why not? You know, so I can put together an email. Oh, four-way review. You should probably send four-way review. You know, a packet. That might be a good fit too. So just some ideas. I have I maintain like a database of all my submissions. So I can quickly assemble a packet. And I know whether I'm sending stuff out exclusive and that I shouldn't send it to other markets. So whether it's kind of locked for only one editor at a time, or whether I can send it out simul. And I try to make it so I could do it kind of tired and drunk, so I never have to worry or stress like I'm making a mistake, because honestly, I want you to try to separate out these two parts of your process. One, which is like this process of kind of being a craftsperson, creating your work and honoring that. And then the other, which is kind of more on the sales side, where you're standing behind your work, you believe in your work, and you never have anything bad to say about it. Basically, you're always positive, you're always optimistic, you're always professional and assertive and kind. And the flip side of that is, a salesperson, if someone comes back to you and it's like, I hate this poem, I just can't stand it, the salesperson side of you is not going to be mad. They're going to be like, well, we're going to have something else for them, or we'll try a different market, so that kind of or you could think of a kitchen metaphor where it's like, hey, are you the chef side, or you the kind of the front of the house side? The front of the house side, they're always happy, they're always proactive, they're always looking to intervene, and they're but they move on very quickly. They don't dwell on it. Something didn't go right, you try to make it right, then you move on, right? So be proactive.
That's solid advice.
Be proactive. If you I hear people ask me this all the time. Oh, I sent something like a year ago and I don't know, should I just write it off? No, you should not. You should be polite. You should be professional and complimentary and assertive. I really love your magazine. It's such an honor for me to have work under your consideration. I completely understand if you're still considering my work. I know the literary process takes time. However, if you did have an opportunity and you did make a decision, really appreciate if you could look back to me. I take pride in accurate records, and I'm sure you do too. That usually gets them.
You've written this before, I can tell.
Oh, I send a lot of
well-practiced email.
Yeah. And if I'm really, really salty about it, I'll, but generally speaking, I try to get that front of the house thing and not be too passive aggressive, but kill them with courtesy. And if they say on their website after 3 months you can query, then query. If they say after 6 months you can query, If they don't, and it's the fucking New Yorker, wait a year and then give them hell and then write it off. If you don't hear from them, just cross it off your list or cross it off your spreadsheet or your database or whatever you're doing. And you gotta constantly be moving forward, Lilith. Constantly. You're too good to be waiting on losers. And there'll be people who try to take you down, who don't understand what you're trying to do. This is an important project. It's beautiful work. Churchgoers, especially churchgoers combined with Corpus Christi, just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it just think of those as a 1-2 punch. And Heartbreak's in there as well because of the just dripping with Edna St. Vincent Millay energy. And I can't promise anything, and no one can, right? I've sent a poem I think is fantastic out 40 times, and it's nothing happens. Sometimes it's the 40th time that it gets accepted. You know, it's binomial distribution, right? Even the best professional baseball players, you know, they'll have a hit 1 out of 3 at bats, right? So it's kind of like that. A great poet, you'll have a hit like 1 out of 20 if you're really, really good.
That's high.
That would be high.
That's a 5%.
Yeah.
No. And I guess that's sort of the balance that we walk.
Depends where you're sending. And you know, with what you're writing,
yeah.
Why not? Why not you? Why not Lilith? Right? Why not send it out to the top places? Give them a month to kind of stew in a little bit, and then send it out to everywhere else. You know, why not? Why not? Take a chance, and you know, the honestly, here's another weird fucking thing. The worst thing that can happen, you get published somewhere really good really quick, because then you think it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, maybe I really am hot shit. Yeah. All right, Lilith. Anything else you want to say to the channel? People are going to catch up with you on Reddit, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for having me. Anybody watching, my DMs are open. I'm happy to chat to people about poetry. I'm happy for people to send me stuff. I love looking at other people's poetry and putting together feedback. So, you know, if you feel like we're on the same wavelength, you know, shoot me a message. I will respond. I don't bite much.
Oh, what a privilege for me. Love what you're up to. Love your approach. Love your attitude. And we'll have to do this again.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anytime.